the past year or so, I graduated from Oxford, got diagnosed with a brain tumor, got a job, got laid off from that job, and am now in the process of finding a job. Completely unrelated to these experiences is an interest I developed in a case that's been in the news recently. One that involves a certain Ivy League grad with a spine injury who's been charged with doing something kind of bad to the CEO of the largest health insurer in America. That's right, I'm talking about Luigi Mangione. With the release of his name in the news came the resurfacing of his old tweets, Instagram posts, Reddit comments, and even his Goodreads account. I like to read and I'm always looking for recommendations, so I took a look through his profile and read some of his most highly rated books. The first one I started with was The Lorax by Dr. Seuss. To be honest, when I first saw this, I thought it was kinda goofy. My own exposure to The Lorax was mostly limited to whatever was in the 2012 animation starring Danny DeVito, Taylor Swift, and Zac Efron. But after analyzing the original source material, I found that it conveys a message highly relevant to our society today. So the story starts with a man called the Onceler, who one day discovers a place where the grass is green, the air is clean, the water is wet, and the trees are widely spread. But instead of appreciating this abundance, he commodifies it, turning the trees into sweaters to sell. When he finds out that they're highly profitable, he builds a factory and uses tools to accelerate production, which in turn accelerates the destruction of the environment. The Lorax confronts him, pointing out that the animals relying on the trees are now starving and their homes uninhabitable. But the Onceler ignores my guy and keeps charging on until he depletes all his resources. In response, the Lorax literally picks his ass up and leaves, his only trace being a pile of rocks inscribed with the word unless. The message that the Onceler later interprets is that, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. So this story is actually a warning against mindless consumerism and unchecked corporate greed. Decisions are constantly made that hurt not just our environment, but also those who don't necessarily have the power or resources to fight back. This book urges us to actively concern ourselves with these issues in order to prevent further harm and exploitation. So all in all, it's a nice and light bedtime story if you're looking for one. Alright, so The Lorax was short and sweet and packed a strong message. This next book, What's Our Problem by Tim Urban, was an absolute unit at 746 pages. But I decided to read it because there was some pretty strong advertising around it. So what's in this book that some readers found so compelling? This book basically aims to examine how and why our society has become increasingly polarized. That is, why there's been a growing sense of dislike and distrust towards people of other political parties. To do so, Urban introduces a framework for how we think in the form of a ladder. On the higher rungs of the ladder, a person welcomes challenges to their ideas and treats them like science experiments. On the lower rungs, they protect their beliefs and persecute anyone who disagrees with them. Urban's argument is that both the left and right are increasingly falling into low-run thinking, which is preventing healthy political discourse. In general, this book is written in a highly accessible way with diagrams that help to break down and enhance its content. Urban articulates ideas on topics like censorship and cancel culture that help to clarify my own views. He does go on a bit of a tirade about what he calls social justice fundamentalism, which is essentially low-run progressivism, and he dedicates a significantly larger portion of the book to it than he does low-run conservatism. So I think there could have been a bit more balance there and more weight given to the perspectives of some of the groups he critiques, and even his own perspective on how his background might influence his views. Overall, though, I think praise of this book reflects an interest in thinking critically about our current society, which, for better or worse, is fundamentally shaped by our reactions to viewpoints that oppose our own. I don't know if I'd agree that this is one of the most important philosophical texts of the early 21st century, but I do think it's a good book to get you thinking about how ideas are spread and suppressed, and how that might be influencing current social and political conversations. Alright, so how exactly do we go about increasing the time and energy we have so that we can actually engage with all of these issues and perspectives? It might be by building some atomic habits. So if you don't already know, atomic habits is all about creating systems that make it easier to stick with good habits and break away from bad ones. Building good systems with habits like reading a page of a book every day or putting your phone in another room when you're working leads to good outcomes. Building bad systems with habits like delaying healthcare or denying medical claims leads to bad outcomes. So the next book is The Little Prince, which follows this dude's journey visiting a bunch of different planets. On these planets, he meets a series of grown-ups. These include a king who's obsessed with power, wanting to rule everything from his planet to the stars, a conceited man who craves acclaim and admiration, and a businessman who obsessively counts the stars, believing that he owns them, which will make him rich, allowing him to buy more stars. After his journey, the prince meets a fox, and their bond helps him to understand that what's most important in life is the relationships you have with others and the time and energy you devote to nurture these relationships. So similar to The Lorax, The Little Prince is also a children's story, at least on the surface, and certain readers might find the insights from these books particularly meaningful because they play a large role in shaping people's values and fundamental beliefs about the world. For instance, The Little Prince is all about rejecting the emptiness of materialism and the glorification of power, status, and wealth. Instead, it shows us that what actually enriches our lives is the connections we form with people who truly understand and care about us. It really is all about living, laughing, and loving. Okay, so the final book I'm going to talk about is Brave New World, which, to be honest, I read in high school, so my memory of the details are a bit fuzzy. But I really enjoyed this book, and there are a lot of quotes from it that have been popular among certain readers, so I thought I'd cover it, focusing more on these specific quotes. This book is essentially about a dystopian society where people are conditioned to seek instant gratification. Any pain or discomfort is doled out by drugs, entertainment, casual sex, and consumerism. Ultimately, it's a critique of how an obsession with endless pleasure hinders the exploration of identity, the experience of emotions, and the pursuit of truth. Its popular quotes reflect the message that a comfortable and easy life, where actions are determined only by societal expectations, can result in happiness, but it's a kind that is artificial. Dealing with the messiness of life, with its pain, discomfort, and moral conflicts, is what allows you to live authentically. Brave New World also ties together a lot of the ideas from the other books I discussed, specifically how rigid thinking and flawed systems are preventing us from seeing the full damage that's being done to our environment, our communities, our relationships, and ourselves. The antidote is to interrogate these systems and our individual habits, breaking free from mindless distractions so that we can lead meaningful lives and help others do the same. Alright, so my final review. These were in fact some good reads. Honest, inspiring, and truly moving. Okay, thanks for watching this video if you got this far. My next one's going to be about experiencing layoffs and unemployment as an Oxford grad, so subscribe if you want to hear more about that. Until then, I'll be sitting down and cracking open my next book.